things, hopeful things, grateful things, as you do your work in the world. We are God's poiema, created in Christ Jesus. That is to say, created and surrounded by that spirit and that power of creation and love. That spirit that can overcome division. We were created for good works. Created to make Emma smile. Created to allow people who feel afraid to feel secure. Created to allow people who are angry to be able to reduce that anger, to diffuse that anger, and become whole again. Created for good works. Now, I suppose we might think of what good works are. You know, it's be nice to your neighbor, the golden rule, and all that. And that may be part of it. But you know, Paul here, or the disciple, was a rabbi. And anytime a rabbi talks about good and works in the same sentence, that person is thinking about the first chapter of Genesis, where God's work was good. God worked for 6 days, created the heavens, created the dome across the sky, separated the waters from above from the waters from below, created animals, and each day God saw that it was good, and there was evening and morning the second day, evening and morning the third day. God saw that it was good, evening and morning the fourth day. Good works are more than being nice. Good works are those things that are creative, that bring about something that would surprise the whole world by its beauty. You are God's poiema, God's dynamic work. God was there the first 6 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But here we are in day 8 and 9 and 10, living out God's creative work among us. You have that strength and power. That's the message of this text. You can do God's creative work. Doesn't that sound like fun? I'm serious. Doesn't it sound like more fun than watching the news? Over the years, rabbis and many Christian theologians have described 3 different kinds of work. 3 different kinds of work that express the love of God. I was reading some of that in Origen, an early patristic theologian, this week, actually yesterday. And he defined them this way. He said there's ethical work and then what he called physics work, not physical, physics work, and then anoptic work. Ethical, physics, and anoptic. And these 3 kinds of work actually relate to something we've talked about before. They relate to the Trinity. They relate to a first-person relationship to the divine. They relate to that I-thou relationship we have with the divine. And they relate to that third person, that recognition of the divine in the world around us. 3 kinds of work. The ethical work, well, I suppose that's the easy one. You know, we got to do nice things. And when you do good things for other people, you know, it tends to go around. It tends to bring hope and gratitude into the world. As we live ethically, we are able to shape the world in a more hopeful way. But that's the first kind of work. That's what we do as we're relating one to another. It's what we do in response to God's love. And then there's physics. And what he means by that is a deep contemplation of the structures of the universe. A deep contemplation on how things fit together and work. Because the more we understand the fabric of creation, the more we are able to weave it together ourselves. We do that study all the time. We learn things all the time. But do we take that extra moment where we can live in the quiet and recognize that God is in the midst of all these things we learn? That God's ways draw together, and recognize when the spirit of the air is tearing things apart. That's the physics work that Origen is talking about. And finally, there's the synoptic work. That's the work that's first person, the work that connects us to the presence and the power of God. The work that generates within us an ability and also a hope to produce something that's beautiful and full and complete. And that work takes time too. We do that work here. That's partly what worship is about. But if we are formed in the presence of this power, instead of being formed by the swirl of things that happen around us that divide us, well, then we have the focus, the energy, and the power to achieve something beautiful. I mean, it's more fun to do work than it is to watch Oprah. I used to say when I watched Letterman every night, I used to say, I really ought to give God equal time, at least with Letterman. Days of Our Lives, I don't know what you all watch. Bad novels. It's an opportunity to be formed in such a way that you can do the work on the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th day because you are God's poiema, God's work of art. You are wonderfully made. Do you let that sink in? Nothing so horrible about you that you can't be beautiful. God's poiema. A dynamic poem. Able to create on the 8th and the 9th and the 10th day. Now the thing is, the world needs our work right now. It's divided. We've got to at least get back to the days of Ike. We've got to at least get to a point where people recognize that they need to move away from division and towards some sort of unity and unitive knowledge. The world needs our work. Needs your work, needs my work. So my question to you today, as you sit in the quiet and contemplate that you are God's beautiful poiema, what is the work that you long to do? What is work that we can do together? How is it that we are going to share the news that there is justice to be had, that there is beauty to be seen and be grateful for in all that surrounds us, and that the presence of God will indeed power the future for us? What's our work together?